Now, a speculation. I wonder what agreement Boris Johnson has in mind when he says he wants agreement with the European Union. He's clearly not negotiating very much, certainly not on the basis of the existing withdrawal agreement. Although there might be some good elements to this treaty, there are so many points, not just the backstop, where the European Union is given control of our affairs, supervision of things like our social security policy, guarantees to essentially underpin the EU budget and protection for the euro, membership of the European Union Army. All of these sorts of craziness is inside this agreement. Is it possible that rather than try and renegotiate this, Boris Johnson has instead in mind to not actually bother with all of that and instead get the very simple GATT Clause 24, Article 24 agreement that he has already talked about? And that would be one where existing arrangements are essentially frozen while we negotiate a free trade agreement. Now, I think Green Leave supporters look at this as in the same way as we look at the ISDS clauses, ISDM clauses, the investor state dispute mechanism clauses in the old TTIP agreement. And that is that we are skeptical of supranational courts that might impose essentially privatization, or worse, just profiteering out of by international companies, multinational companies, of state actors and agencies, local authorities, the NHS and the like, suing them essentially for the profits lost on policies which exclude private competition. Now, isn't this more or less the same thing? This withdrawal agreement sets up a supranational court, in many cases the ECJ, which would allow supervision essentially of British state policy. And one of the obvious targets would be any nationalisation of the rail industry, and another might be any national control that we want to see of state procurement, so that we're able to reorganise purchasing by the public sector into local providers. Both of those things would be ruled illegal by the European Courts of Justice, because they're anti-competitive in their view. So actually, Boris Johnson's plan for continuation of the existing arrangements, and then we get a free trade agreement which allows us to set our own policies within the UK on these matters, that's actually adequate, really, from a Green point of view. I think the ideal from a Green point of view is actually that we don't have a deal, because this democratic point is absolutely key. So if we ended up with no deal, certainly Green Leave supporters would be happy. If we ended up, though, with a GATT 24 departure and then thereafter a free trade agreement whereby we retain national autonomy and our democratic institutions are still able to set economic policy, that would also be pretty good.